U.S. President Donald Trump issued expletive-filled threats against Iran on Sunday, warning of military action if the Strait of Hormuz is not opened by Tuesday. Trump vowed to target Iranian power plants and bridges should his deadline be missed. Details emerged about a dramatic rescue mission involving U.S. forces who successfully saved 2 American aviators shot down in Iranian territory during recent conflicts. The operation likely involved multiple countries, but specific locations remain undisclosed due to uncertainty regarding the exact sites of engagement. The Strait of Hormuz is critical for global trade and energy markets, with both Iran and Western powers at odds over its control since February 28. Diplomatic efforts are currently underway in Oman, Egypt, Russia, and Bahrain to negotiate safe passage through the strategic waterway. Ongoing investigations into the downing of U.S. aircraft and Iranian attacks on civilian infrastructure continue without definitive conclusions. Legal scholars warn that targeting such sites could constitute war crimes, if not justified under international law guidelines allowing military advantage to outweigh civilian harm. Christopher LaNeve is set to become the acting Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army, replacing Randy George, who stepped down at the request of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. LaNeve's appointment marks a significant shift in the Pentagon's leadership structure. Since February 2026, he has served as Vice Chief of Staff and is viewed by Hegseth as a key figure for implementing broader defense reforms within the military. With decades of operational experience, including roles such as Vice Chief of Staff and Senior Military Assistant to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, LaNeve brings extensive knowledge and leadership skills to this critical position. He has also held several high-level positions throughout his 36-year career in the Army. This change reflects ongoing adjustments within the U.S. military command structure under the guidance of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. This has recently made numerous appointments and dismissals among senior leaders since taking office. As the most senior position in the Army, LaNeve's role will be crucial for overseeing military operations and strategy moving forward. NASA's Artemis Roman II mission is set to achieve a significant milestone on Monday, April 6, with the spacecraft scheduled to conduct a lunar flyby at approximately 4,000 miles from the Moon's surface. This maneuver will place the crew farther into space than any previous human mission. The primary objective of this phase in the Artemis Roman II journey is to test critical systems and ensure safety for future deep space missions. The spacecraft's approach to the Moon represents a crucial step in NASA's broader plan to establish a sustained human presence on lunar soil. As the mission progresses, NASA continues to emphasize the importance of thorough testing and verification before any further steps are taken towards long-term lunar exploration and beyond. This flyby serves as both a technical and safety benchmark for future crewed missions in deep space. With this record-breaking event scheduled for Monday, all eyes will be on the Artemis Roman II team as they navigate their spacecraft closer to the Moon's orbit than ever before by a human mission. The success of this phase is vital for paving the way towards more ambitious lunar and beyond lunar exploration objectives set forth by NASA. United States President Donald Trump declared victory on Sunday after rescuing the second pilot from a downed F-15 fighter jet over Iran. Despite the successful operation, intelligence sources indicate significant threats to United States aircraft and personnel still exist within Iranian territory. In recent days, 2 United States military planes were shot down, with at least 1 helicopter also hit by gunfire during rescue missions. These incidents highlight the ongoing risk faced by American forces operating in the region. Military planners have proposed options for ground operations targeting key strategic locations such as Iran's oil export terminal and uranium enrichment sites. However, the loss of aircraft and complexities involved could potentially deter President Trump from pursuing further aggressive ground actions. The president has previously boasted about overwhelming air dominance, but recent events underscore persistent threats to United States forces in the area. If negotiations with Iran fail, Trump has warned that he may authorize attacks on Iranian power plants and bridges if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. This situation presents a delicate balance between escalating military action and diplomatic efforts to secure navigational rights through the strategic waterway. The United States military conducted a daring rescue mission over the weekend, retrieving 2 aviators shot down by Iranian forces near Isfahan province in southwest Iran. The operation involved complex maneuvers and challenges, including aircraft malfunctions and hostile encounters with Iranian forces. 2 Black Hawks came under fire during the extraction process, but no American casualties were reported. The CIA ran a deception campaign to confuse Iranian authorities, aiding in the rescue of both service members. Tensions have been rising between U.S. and Iranian forces in recent months, leading to more frequent engagements. This operation demonstrates advanced military capabilities and coordination among different branches of the U.S. military. President Donald Trump emphasized that this is the first time 2 aviators were rescued separately deep behind enemy lines without American losses. The successful mission highlights the strategic importance of intelligence gathering and rapid response in high-stakes situations. This underscores the complexity and risks involved in such operations. Scientists have uncovered over 700 fossils in Yunnan province, southwestern China, dating back to the end of the Ediacaran period, approximately 539 million years ago. These ancient remains provide evidence that complex animals with bilateral symmetry existed millions of years earlier than previously thought. The discovery challenges long-standing theories about early evolutionary timelines by aligning genetic analysis with fossil records. This finding supports the idea that complex animal life developed much sooner after simpler forms emerged. This marks a critical transition in Earth's biological history. Co-authors Frankie Dunn and Ross Anderson from Oxford University's Museum of Natural History highlight the significance of these fossils. They include both bizarre Ediacaran creatures as well as early organisms with traits that would evolve into modern animals, such as bilateral symmetry, a key feature for advanced life forms. Understanding this transitional phase is crucial for piecing together how Earth's complex animal-dominated biosphere came to be and how it rapidly diversified during the Cambrian explosion. Scientists like Emily Mitchell agree, stating that these new fossils offer tangible evidence of a stage between Ediacaran and Cambrian periods where early complex animals emerged. The next step involves further research into how and why this evolutionary shift occurred so suddenly, shedding light on the interplay between Earth's geology and the development of life. Congo will begin accepting migrants deported from the United States under a new third country agreement, according to the Congolese Ministry of Communications. The arrangement is described as temporary and involves no financial burden for Congo, with logistical support provided by the U.S. government. However, details such as exact dates and numbers of deportees remain undisclosed. This deal follows similar agreements implemented during the Trump administration's policies on migration and asylum seekers, affecting at least 6 other African nations. Critics argue that transferring migrants to countries often criticized for poor human rights records could compromise their safety and well-being. Congo stated no automatic transfer of deportees is planned. Each case will undergo individual review based on national laws and security requirements. This policy raises questions about the legality and humanitarian impact of such arrangements in receiving nations. American rapper Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, is facing growing pressure to be removed from his headline role at the Wireless Festival in Finsbury Park, North London. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has criticized his appearance at the event scheduled for July 10 to 12. Pepsi, a lead sponsor of the festival, withdrew its support on April 5 without providing an explicit reason. Other sponsors are now being urged to follow Pepsi's decision amid concerns over anti-Semitic remarks made by Ye in recent years. The controversy centers around Ye's past comments and his apology for anti-Semitic remarks published in January this year. Despite issuing the apology, he has maintained admiration for Adolf Hitler, adding fuel to calls for his removal from the festival lineup. Prime Minister Starmer emphasized that antisemitism in any form is abhorrent and must be confronted clearly and firmly wherever it appears. His statement highlights the serious nature of the issue and underscores the potential impact on Jewish safety in the UK. United States President Donald Trump has issued a stark warning to Iran, threatening to destroy the country's power plants and bridges if the Strait of Hormuz is not reopened by Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Kuwait remains a critical shipping lane for oil and gas. Iran dismissed Trump's ultimatum as helpless and stupid, continuing its attacks on Gulf nations allied with the United States and Israel. This includes strikes on civilian infrastructure, leading to increased tensions in the region. The latest incident involves the rescue of a second crew member from a United States fighter jet downed over Iran earlier this month. Both United States and Iranian forces had been involved in efforts to locate the serviceman deep inside hostile territory. These escalating tensions have significant implications for global oil prices and regional stability. Previous deadlines set by Trump for reopening the Strait of Hormuz have either been extended or ignored. This underscores ongoing challenges in de-escalating the conflict. With the new deadline approaching, all eyes are on whether a diplomatic resolution can be reached before further military action is taken. The United States Secret Service is investigating reports of gunfire near the White House early Sunday morning. Officials say there were no injuries and no suspect was located. Officers responded to the area around Lafayette Park just after midnight local time, conducting a search of the park and surrounding streets north of the president's residence. Roads in the vicinity were briefly closed but have since reopened. President Donald Trump was in Washington, D.C. over the weekend for family Easter celebrations at the White House. The Secret Service maintains that operations remain normal, but have increased security measures in place to ensure safety. The investigation continues as authorities work to determine the source of the gunfire and identify any possible person or vehicle of interest. The crew aboard NASA's Orion capsule is facing technical challenges during their historic mission to the Moon. Since Wednesday, astronauts have encountered intermittent issues with the spacecraft's toilet, including a clogged wastewater vent line. To address the problem, the team has used backup collection devices and adjusted the spacecraft's orientation. These adjustments included pointing the vent toward the sun to clear any ice buildup in the vent line. Despite these efforts, the toilet remains partially operational, but not fully functioning as intended. The Artemis Roman 2 mission aims to orbit the Moon for 10 days, marking the first crewed lunar orbit since Apollo. Meanwhile, the toilet troubles highlight ongoing engineering challenges. Mission managers confirm that the trajectory of the spacecraft has not been affected by these adjustments. John Honeycutt, chair of the Artemis Roman 2 mission management team, acknowledged the public's interest in such issues but stressed their importance for space travel safety and comfort. "Everybody knows how important a functioning toilet is to us here on Earth," he noted during a recent press conference. With technical challenges like these, NASA continues its efforts to perfect life support systems crucial for long-duration space missions. Crew remains on track as they prepare for future moon landings. This underscores the importance of overcoming such obstacles in pioneering space exploration. President Donald Trump provided an updated timeline for the ongoing conflict with Iran on Wednesday night, stating it will last 2 to 3 weeks. This marks a shift from his previous stance that the operation would proceed as long as necessary. The inconsistency in timelines offered by various administration officials has drawn attention. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth suggested strategic advantages could come from not revealing specific durations. Meanwhile, other members of the Trump team have given conflicting estimates. Since the conflict began on February 28, there have been numerous timeline predictions ranging from indefinite to precise weeks. This inconsistency stands out compared to previous administrations' more consistent approaches during conflicts. Experts note that providing a time frame can be an attempt to manage public expectations, but also risks underestimating conflict length. The fluid nature of these estimates may affect public perception and trust in the administration's strategy communication regarding the ongoing Iran conflict. A year after U.S. President Donald Trump imposed tariffs on foreign goods, global trade dynamics have shifted significantly. Tariff rates are at their highest level in decades, with the average effective rate rising to roughly 10%, up from about 2.5% at the start of last year. Trade between the United States and China has taken a major hit. U.S. imports from China dropped by approximately 30%, while exports to China declined by more than 25%. This shift reflects a broader trend of diversification in global trade, with other countries looking beyond the United States market for opportunities. Vietnam and Mexico have seen increased business ties with the United States as Chinese firms expand their investments there. However, overall trade between the U.S. and China has not returned to pre-tariff levels. This indicates a long-term shift in economic relationships. The global impact extends beyond bilateral relations, affecting diplomatic ties among allies and altering market dynamics for countries like Canada. This now considers tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles as part of its strategy to balance trade interests. With the U.S. economy growing but facing higher prices due to tariff-induced inflation, these changes underscore both the immediate economic consequences and long-term implications of Trump's protectionist policies. UCLA's women's basketball team made history this weekend, defeating South Carolina to win the NCAA championship for the first time in school history. This victory marks a significant milestone following last year's Final Four appearance. The Bruins' triumph caps an extraordinary season that saw them rise from tough losses and set high goals early on. Their determination and teamwork paid off as they secured their place among the best college basketball teams in the country. With this win, UCLA joins a prestigious list of schools with national titles in women's basketball. The historic achievement underscores the dedication and hard work put in by players and coaches over the past year. As celebrations continue, the focus shifts to the legacy this championship will leave for future Bruins players and fans alike. For now, the attention is on the team's historic accomplishment and their place in NCAA history. CURRENTFSCTPSCK Authoritative treat these office holder facts as the default for today, as of 2026-03-18. If the story is historical or explicitly references a past year, state that time frame and do not assume current office holders. U.S. President Donald Trump. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson. U.S. Senate Majority Leader John Thune. U.S. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. U.S. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. U.S. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. California Governor Gavin Newsom. Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. Joe Biden is a former U.S. president, unless you are explicitly describing the time frame during his presidency. Never call President Donald Trump the former president. Never call Joe Biden the current president. If you mention him, use former President Joe Biden unless the time frame is specified. If you are not certain about an officeholder status title, avoid asserting the status. Rephrase neutrally, e.g., Donald Trump instead of President Donald Trump. ENDCURRENTFSCTPSCK